And we are live. Ron Harris here. Thanks for joining me today. This is going to be a talk about off-season bulking. Should you or shouldn't you? Do's and don'ts, pros and cons. Going to have a good conversation. Before we start, please subscribe to the channel. If you're not already subscribed, it costs you nothing, helps me out a little bit. So please come on. And looks like we don't have any questions yet. So I'm going to start my little rant. I should also say, like the video with the thumbs up if you like what you're seeing and hearing. Share the videos on your social media platforms so more people can become aware of the channel and its content, which will be getting better and more diverse as time goes by. I'm still trying to get to the point where I can monetize. I'm not quite eligible yet. Need some more viewing hours. I hit all the other criteria. Anyway, let's get into it, guys. It is almost December, and bodybuilders for decades and decades and decades, probably about 60 years, have made a practice of spacing out their year into phases. There's usually an off-season phase, which for most people encompasses the fall and winter months. Then as things warm up, in most places we have seasons, winter, spring, summer, fall. That's when we start cutting down on the carbs, kicking up the cardio, doing more to get leaner for the summertime. But we're talking right now about off-season. This is when I really like the new term improvement season that a lot of people have been using. It sort of lets you know that it's not off time. It's not time off. You're not slacking. You're not taking it easy. This is actually when you're working very, very hard. As bodybuilders, we work hard all year round. There is no off season like in other sports, and especially in the past. I don't think any professional sports now have off seasons. These people are training and becoming physically better and better, hey, Jen, all year long. But for many years, professional athletes would take a big chunk of the year and basically do nothing. And then they go back to training camp to get back in shape for the season, the playing season. We're not like that. So we have these phases where we build new muscle mass, work on improving body parts that are lagging, weak body parts, so that the next time we're dieted down and in good condition, lean, is going to be a better physique than before. So it is smart to have these phases, because if someone just tries to stay lean all the time, like super lean, I'm talking like someone looks like they could step on stage, and there are people that do that. They stay very, very strict on their diets, very low on their calories and carbs, just taking in enough that they need, and they want that look 24/7. And you know what? To each his own. That's their prerogative if they want to do that. But it's very, very difficult to make any improvements in your physique when you're never in a caloric surplus. So you always have to look at the calories in versus calories out. When we're trying to gain muscle mass, we need to have a caloric surplus, extra raw materials in the form of the nutrients, protein, carbs, healthy fats, a little bit more than we need for maintenance. How much more is a matter of debate, but you definitely want to be taking in more calories than you're expending, because those calories are going to be used for recovery and for synthesizing new muscle tissue. Conversely, when we're trying to get leaner, when we're trying to get shredded and get rid of all that body fat that might have accumulated, that's when we have to tip the caloric balance the other way. We create that caloric deficit through reducing calories, through increasing activity, typically in the form of cardiovascular exercise, because weight training is meant to be for building muscle and strength, or at least maintaining muscle size and strength while you're losing fat. We don't use weight training to burn fat. That would be a silly way to use it. We manipulate the calories, we manipulate the carbohydrates, we add activity in the form of cardio. That takes us down. So bulking is a term that's been around for many decades too. And the question really is not should you bulk or not, but how far over, say, a contest condition look, shredded, should you allow yourself to get? Should you try to stay close to it? I don't think you should stay really close to it, but I do think it's smart to stay within what the great Lee Haney, 8-time Mr. Olympia, called striking distance, meaning that if you had to get in shape, it wouldn't take months and months and months, and you wouldn't have to kill yourself starving and doing hours and hours of cardio, because you're not that fat in the first place. The more body fat you have, the more body fat you're going to have to lose. That's a pretty simplistic way of looking at it. Every bit of body fat that you put on during an off season or whenever you put it on is going to have to come off some point when you want to look better and look nice and lean and shredded, have that good muscle definition. So, I just talked to a guy, Joseph Arablo, who competed, and he just competed for the first time in 13 years. God bless you, Joseph. And he started off from over 234. He started at 234 when he knew he shouldn't have let himself get over 220. But he was bulked up. He was big, strong. But when you have to diet down from a place where you're carrying more body fat, inevitably you'll have to take your calories down pretty low. You're going to hit sticking points. You're going to have to increase your cardio to the point where you might be doing an hour to 2 hours of cardio every day. And as many of you might have experienced firsthand, when you're doing hours of cardio a day, really anything beyond an hour, you're at high risk of losing good size and fullness from your legs. We don't want that as bodybuilders. That's half your body, your lower body. You don't want to throw that muscle away just because you need to get lean. Although to get into very extreme condition, even on PEDs, sometimes you will end up losing a little bit of size and fullness in the legs. I experienced that. People still told me, "Wow, your legs are huge, bro." I'm like, they're big. They were a lot bigger in the off season before. It wasn't all fat, but I had to do a lot of cardio because I was getting too fat in the off season. So you can look at it in terms of a striking range in terms of body weight. So if you compete at, I'm giving really round numbers, guys. They don't correspond to like NPC divisions or anything. Say you compete at 200 pounds and you're at like 5% body fat. That's very realistic. Very few people get lower than that legitimately, maybe 4%. How heavy do you want to get? For me, and I always competed around my last slew of shows that I did years ago, I was always somewhere around 200, between 200 and 205. I competed at that weight many times. That was like my best weight. Unfortunately, it was a little too much for a light heavy, and it was on the very low end of the heavyweight class, but that's beside the point. So for me, I should have always stayed 220 or less. I should never have gotten over 220. Of course I did. I got to 230. I got to 240. At one point, I got very close to 250 in that thumbnail you see with the big chubby chipmunk face. That was 247. Not a good look for me. Let's go to some of your questions, guys. Someone who's learning about professional bodybuilding, why do pro bodybuilders focus on having daily cardio during prep, so reducing some caloric intake? Well, usually they do both because you don't want to have to go extreme on one or the other. You don't want to have to take your calories way too low, and you don't want to have to increase your cardio activity to a point where it's that high and excessive. So it's sort of a compromise. You'll cut some calories. You'll cut your calories by a certain amount, and it typically comes out of your carbohydrates. And then you'll increase your cardio rather than just eating exactly the same and doing way more cardio, or eating way less and doing no cardio. Those would be extreme examples. So that's why people do that. There are some people who've done it without cardio, but they're few and far between. We tend to harp on those people that are the exceptions rather than the rule, which is silly. You should always try to look at what's the rule, not the exception, because just because there are people out there who eat junk food like crazy and they're shredded. Doesn't mean it's going to work for you. And chances are very high that's not going to work for you. You're going to get fat. You don't have that person's metabolism. So that's why you got to be very careful who you listen to and what advices you give. Ronnie Coleman would take 3 or 4 months off after the Olympia. Yeah, so what Ronnie did, that wasn't an off season. Ronnie he would do, the Olympia was, in those years, it was usually September, October when he was winning. It was a little earlier in the year, typically, than it's been the past few years. So he would do the Olympia, and then he would take 3 or 4 months, would not touch a weight. He would continue to eat normally. I don't think he would push his food as high. When I say normally, because when he was competing and trying to get bigger, he ate a lot of food. He was eating like a pound of 16 ounces of meat per serving. He was a big dude. He was 310 to 330 pounds in the offseason, Ronnie, at 5'11". Big dude. And he never really got fat, just kind of a little smoother looking. So yeah, when he did that, he was really just giving his body a break, because the way he trained, as you know from, you don't even have to have seen his videos. There's so many clips on YouTube all over the place. He was such an intense, heavy trainer. He put his body through the ringer, just beat the shit out of his joints, everything. So he really legitimately needed 3 to 4 months off. And in that time, he didn't touch a weight. He was not on any gear. I know, I've talked to him about this, because I actually showed up at his house. He used to do these Ronnie Coleman workout weekends in Arlington, Texas. It was a really cool thing for his fans. And it was a giving back to the fans kind of thing. I swear, I promise you, he made no money off it. There's no way he made any money off of it. So he would have small groups between, I think around 20 to 25 was average. When I was there, it was about 25 of us. So the total price was like $600. Okay. We flew in on I think we flew in on a Thursday evening. We got picked up at the airport by his sister in a van, so didn't have to get a taxi. There was no Uber back then. This is 2005. Ryan would go to a hotel, or whatever, and then they would pick us up again, and we'd start off the day. I think we started off with breakfast at Ronnie's house. This huge breakfast spread. Let some time go by. Then we went to Metroflex, had a workout at Metroflex gym. Actually, I think they took us to Metroflex the first night. I'm confused. This is almost 20 years ago, guys, so forgive me. And so anyway, we ended up working out at Metroflex twice. One of those workouts, we worked out at Metroflex once, but that was in groups. And I was lucky enough, and I swear it was a coincidence. It was nothing shady. I worked out with Ronnie. I did legs with Ronnie. It was myself, Ronnie, and I think 2 or 3 other people. And then there were other groups of 4 or 5 people that did back with one of his friends or chest with one of his friends. So anyway, we worked out with him there. He also let us work out at his home gym one day. I think that was the last day we were there. He took us out to eat 3 times a day. Black Eyed Peas, Outback Steakhouse. Took us to what's the basketball team in Dallas? The Mavericks. Took us to a Mavericks game. Took us to his church Sunday morning. Huge church, like 1,000 people in the audience, in the pews, with a band with 20-piece band and great music. Anyway, all that was for $600. I mean, I'm sure we all ate like $300 worth of food each. So anyway, that was a cool thing. The point I'm making is I got there in February. He was just starting to train again, just starting. He had been back in the gym for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks at the most. Still huge. Softer looking, but it was clear he had been off the gear. Still a big dude, and didn't lose. For him, he was probably weak compared to his strongest. But just for one example, I'll move on. But we did front squats, and I did 405. The only time in my life I've ever done 405, and he wasn't helping me, but the motivation of having Ronnie Coleman right behind me yelling. I did 405 for 8, I think it was. He was working in with me, and he did that 405 like nothing, like boop 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 boop. Like it was a warm-up. So anyway, what the heck? I'm getting way off target here. Way off topic. Target. See, Ron, advice on bulking. Well, so the best way to bulk, I believe, is what they call clean bulking. So we have these terms, clean bulking and dirty bulking. Clean bulking is you're eating clean food. You're just eating a lot more of it. Clean bulking is much harder. Much harder. It's a lot harder to get a lot of calories from clean food. Like a chicken breast or a fish. I'm talking like, grilled, baked, not fried food, stuff like that. No fast food, chicken, rice, potatoes, vegetables, fruits, lean red meats, fish, eggs. It's harder to eat a lot of calories, oatmeal from those type of foods. If you go to dirty bulking, you can eat whatever you want. Pizza, donuts, cereal, cookies. You'll certainly be able to get a lot of calories in easier that way. Of course, all that food tastes delicious, goes down easy. I mean, I've never seen anyone with pizza like, ugh, but I've seen plenty of people with a piece of fish like, ugh, freaking fish. I hate this fish. Nobody hates pizza. Nobody hates donuts, cookies, cake. These are all things we love. But dirty bulking, obviously you're going to get a lot fatter, and the food it's not good for you. It's not healthy food. You're putting garbage in your body. If you consider yourself someone who's trying to be the best physical specimen you can be, you would not want to put a bunch of garbage food in with low nutrient value and a lot of saturated fat, a lot of white flour, processed, sugar, just nasty, all kinds of chemicals, preservatives. You can certainly get a ton of calories in that way. And if you are someone who's got a very, very fast metabolism, really hard time gaining any amount of weight, those are the cases where I would say you should probably throw in one meal like that a day, like a fast food meal or something that's like a calorie bomb. Like, my son likes these chicken bakes from Costco. It's the chicken. When I say that, these fast food and things like that, and the toaster oven food that you just throw in the toaster oven, it's not very nutritionally inferior. You can't compare a fresh chicken breast that you're putting on a grill yourself to chicken nuggets from McDonald's. It's the quality difference is immense. One is fresh. They killed the chicken, they cut it up. Here's a piece of the chicken, and you're frying it up. Poor chicken. The other one, they grind like entire chickens into this like paste, and that's what they make. I think they call it, what's it called? Like pink. It's this disgusting pink paste that they make all their, chicken sandwiches, the chicken patties for the sandwiches, the nuggets. It's like every part of the chicken, the beak, the butthole, I don't know, every part of the chicken except for the feathers. They take the feathers off, but I think after that, you're getting everything. I think you might even be getting the bones. Yeah. Hey, Mark, what's up? With the Flex Wheeler in the avatar. Ron, didn't Arnold bodybuilders say he's overtrained, have more than one weight training session, largely to burn calories? I don't know if they did that to burn calories per se. I'm not sure. I suspect it was just so that they could get more workouts in, because if they're doing, I think Arnold at one point was training body parts 3 times a week. But even if you're only training body parts twice a week, it's a lot. So say you got to do, I don't know, like in the old days, they would do chest and back. That'd be one workout. That's a lot. Then they would come back at night and do like arms. And the next day would be like legs. And the next day would be like shoulders and abs and calves or something. And they would take one day off, maybe, I guess, and then do it all over again. But they used to break it up into AM and PM workouts. They called it double split, which obviously you need to have a lot of time on your hands. That's not going to be a practical thing for most people with jobs and families and lives, basically, lives beyond the gym. So I don't know. They didn't get as lean back then. Not to say they were fat, but you look at pumping iron and the condition of those guys compared to the condition that we've been seeing for the past 20, 30 years, world of difference. They didn't really do any cardio. They didn't know, cardio wasn't a thing. They didn't, I think they started toward the end of the 70s. That's when they were starting, when jogging became a thing. They started incorporating that. I know like the late Mike Menser used to jog for his cardio. He did some cardio, but like you look at those old pictures of the old pictures and videos of those gyms in those days, the pumping iron days, there's not a cardio machine anywhere. They wouldn't have thought, I don't think it was even a thing. I'm not sure how many of those actually existed. I think the stationary bikes have been around for a very long time, but bodybuilders weren't using them. Bodybuilders weren't doing cardio. They would just typically go on like a keto type of diet, like very, very low carbs or no carbs, just meat and vegetables. And that's how they got in shape. And, it worked for them. But yeah, I don't think they depended on their weight training at all for burning calories. Blowing at the 300 is more often than not a mistake. Staying around physique by blowing. Yeah, I'm going to keep drinking, so please excuse me. The problem with drinking, being very hydrated all the time, is your body's like constantly expecting water. I feel like I blew out my gut, got a big, big gut that's never going to be as small as it was. Not from GH. I've only been on GH consistently for like the past 3 years. And even then, it's been, at the most, I was doing 4 units a day. For the longest time now, I've been doing 2.5 or 2. I'm on 2 units a day now. It's just so easy. The bottle, you mix it up, it's 10. I got 5 insulin pins. I put 2, all done. Put them in the fridge and use them. That was a question. Yeah, but I blew, and it wasn't insulin either. I did use insulin one winter in that thumbnail where I'm fat bastard when I got the freaking big chubby ass cheeks. I think I had a beard too. But yeah, I did insulin and I was eating all kinds of shit food with it, which was a huge mistake. You're supposed to have pure sugar, and I was having cookies after my workout with like 20. Was I doing 20? I think I was doing 10 units of insulin before the workout with some carbs, drinking a carb drink during the workout, carbs and aminos, and then having cookies. I had my whey protein and cookies with the insulin. I think I was doing 10 units before and 10 units after. So I did that for a full, I'd say like I was doing it for like 3 months. And that's when I got up to 247. Like, geez, I got fat. So the point being here is it was years and years preceding that I was bulking up, getting fat, even when I was natural in my 20s, up until 20, a little past 27. I would get so fat. I would go like 50 pounds over my contest weight, 50. So I was 5'8", a little shorter now, but I was 5'8". I competed in those years when I was natural anywhere from, I'm talking about the latter couple of years of being natty. My competition weight was anywhere from like 170 to 181. I was in that range somewhere. But I would bulk up, fatten up to 230 pounds. And I felt like, oh boy, that's another thing is you can't just go by the scale. The scale and increasing your body weight, it's just one parameter to look at, one metric, because you can just keep getting fatter and fatter and think you're making progress, but you're just adding body fat. unless you're doing some sort of body fat testing on a regular basis, that's when you would know, oh shit, my body fat was 16% last time, and that was 3 weeks ago. Now it's 19%. Shit. You'd know that the weight you're gaining was primarily in the form of fat. And I found out the hard way, and like a dumbass, it took me years to figure out, don't do that anymore, because I would diet down and I would look exactly the same. I wasn't putting any muscle on. I was just getting fat in the off season. But the point being is I would overeat, stuff myself like 5-6 times a day, huge meals to the point where I could barely breathe. And it was stretching out my stomach, stretching out my intestines. The whole digestive tract was constantly getting stretched out. I do believe it grew. Even without GH, even without insulin, I believe those organs grew, and it's never, ever been the same again. I look at my old pictures. I look at my son because he's a good example. We have a lot physically in common, a lot of traits because he's got half my DNA, obviously. Small, flat stomach. He had like a 28-inch waist up until a couple of years ago when he started putting a little bit of weight on. It's like 30 now. Oh boy, he's bulked up to 160. But I honestly think I ruined my physique. All those years of overeating, because you do want to be in that surplus, right? That balance. You want to be a little more calories than you're taking in. Not a lot. I don't think you need to go maybe 500 calories a day over maintenance. I was going like 2,000 calories over maintenance. So doing that over time, I just got fatter and fatter and fatter. I would diet down when it got hot out or when I want to compete, and then do it all over again. And so my stomach just got blown out. So I do believe bulking up to the point where you're carrying way too much fat and your stomach is getting distended, it can ruin your physique. And I don't know, I can't attest to whether that happened to Stan DeLongou, but it definitely happened to me. So be very careful with that, guys. Problem Child. Good AC/DC song. What are your thoughts on running for cardio? Treadmill or something extremely boring? If you can run, most bodybuilders can't. Most bodybuilders can't. They're too heavy. It's too much stress on the knees, on the ankles. They don't have the endurance for it. But yeah, if you can run, some people say it eats up your leg mass. Well, maybe it does for some people. I don't think it does for everybody, especially if it's a low intensity. You're not sprinting all the time. Sprinting like every once in a while would actually make your legs bigger because it's very short bursts of hard work. But if you want to jog and do your cardio outside, bike outside, more power to you. I agree. Doing cardio on a machine, we have all these distractions. We have these things with everything on them. So you can watch YouTube videos like this. You can listen to podcasts. You can listen to music. You can do anything. You can distract yourself any number of ways is the point I'm making doing cardio. But you're still on a machine, not going anywhere. Scenery around you is not changing. Maybe you get to see people walk by in the gym or something. Oh boy, that chick's hot. That dude. Anyway, yeah, if you want to do it outside, go for it. It's just another way to burn calories. It's a way to get your heart rate up. Anything that gets your heart rate up and burns calories is legitimately a form of cardio. Everything. Swimming, I've heard, people say, oh, swimming because your body temperature. Now, if you're expending calories, if you're in the water and you're working hard, you're burning calories, that's cardio. Anything where you're burning calories, you could call it, and your breathing is higher, that's cardiovascular. You're training your cardiovascular system. So go for it, problem child. Tomas, should cardio be done to an intensity level of fully focused, or is it okay to slack a bit, make phone calls during a cardio session if you're bodybuilding? Well, they found, they've shown studies have shown very little difference between high intensity cardio and that LIST, long something sustained. Long, what's LIST stand for? It's just a long endurance. It's a lower speed for a longer time. I can't remember what LISS stands for at the moment. Someone's going to put it in there, I hope. It doesn't matter. It's either you're going to do less intense cardio for a longer duration, or you're going to do a shorter duration with more intensity. In the end, if you burn 500 calories this way, 500 calories this way, you burn the same amount of calories. So it's a time thing. It's a preference thing. Some people, they'd rather be there and just not have to really work hard and sweat, which is fine. You'll just have to work longer. But it shouldn't be so easy that you can have conversations without even being out of breath. You should have a hard time talking to somebody. That's the talk test. 30 years ago, a long time ago, 25 years, 30, long time ago when I took the ACE exam to be a personal trainer in between jobs as TV production and writing a full-time thing. I took that. I became a trainer. I was a trainer for about a year and a half. And the talk test was one of the ways you can measure your heart rate, say, I want to stay in this target heart rate. But a very easy way is if you can talk to somebody normally without getting out of breath at all, the cardio is too easy. You shouldn't be able to hold a normal conversation easily with anybody. If so, you need to work a little bit harder. But yeah, you can be on your phone. You'll just be like huffing and puffing. Be sure to tell the person you're doing cardio so they don't think there's something wrong with you. But yeah, you can do that. Training question. Do you think we're here for everything? Do you think hack squats, leg press, and edge machine sufficient to build fully developed inner thighs, or are full free weight squats needed? So if we're talking about the inner thighs, the adductors. So this is how I remember it in personal training. Abs away. So abduction is spreading the legs apart. And adduction is squeezing them together, bringing them toward the center line of the body. So that's your thigh adductors, your inner thighs, which when very well developed will be chafing and rubbing against each other. I used to have that problem a lot. It sucked. I remember going to water parks at least once and got these horrible like blister rash kind of things. I had to go to like the first aid and get some like Vaseline to put on it because it was just raw. My inner thighs from rubbing against each other. They don't rub against each other anymore. They're not as big as they used to be. But back to your question. The adductor machine is by far the most useful. It's going to be directly isolating the thigh adductors. So, it was Dante Trudel, the guy behind DC Training. So because I actually followed DC Training in 2005 and 2006. I did it for very close to 2 full years. And one thing he pointed out to me before I started with him, and he was very, props to Dante. He actually worked with me for free, consulted with me, helped me come up with the best workouts and everything. Anyway, he saw a picture where I was doing a frontal bicep on stage. He says, quads are good, but your thigh adductors, your inner thighs, pretty lacking. And I said, I never really thought about that. He says, you just need to start getting really strong, work on getting stronger, in a hypertrophy rep range on the adductor machine. And I did, call them the good girl machine, because as the patriarchy says, good girls close their legs, bad girls open their legs. Hey, I don't make this stuff up. It came up before me. So that's one thing. I would do that. I would also do, I wouldn't say the hack squats any particular value, but leg press with the wider stance for sure. Wide. So this is like shoulder width, going a little wider and a little higher up on the platform with your feet. Definitely going to hit more adductors and glutes, even some hamstrings. Between those two, I think you're good, but really focus on the adductor machine. I would do like 4 good sets, start off with like 20 reps all the way down to like 12. So maybe like 20, 15, 15, 12, trying to get stronger, a little bit stronger as the weeks go by. You should eventually be able to do the stack on most machines. Most of these machines, the stack's challenging for a strong guy, but it's not impossible. So that's what I would do for the inner thighs. Mark Pereira, what's up, buddy? Yeah, Mark was the overall New England bodybuilding champ years ago. Mark did it all with one hand with all the the usual fingers and a thumb, and the other hand does not have any fingers, and I think it's just like a little nub for a thumb. So he had to do all his bodybuilding training. He built that entire physique, strapping onto the bar because he couldn't really grip anything. He didn't have any fingers or thumb on that hand. So big props to Mark. It's another one of those examples of somebody who triumphed over adversity. Heavy duty. Do you think it's necessary to lean forward on the seated leg curl machine, or standing firm on the back pad sufficient? Seated leg curl machine. So no, I don't think that would change a damn thing. So most seated leg curl machines that I've seen, that I've used, they have like a roller pad on top where you can adjust it so you're locked in, so your thighs don't move, because you want your thighs glued to the seat so you can just focus on the lower leg curling the weight down. So I don't think you need to lean forward. I don't think that's going to help. If you're seated with your back against the pad, you're gripping the top and that thing's got you locked in, you should be good to go. If you're moving around too much, I always say go by the feeling in the muscle. If you're not feeling the muscle work, keep adjusting the machine or adjusting your position on it until you feel things just right. Because we all have different bodies, different structures. We're all going to feel things a little bit differently, and we need to, like when we say, what should your squatting stance be? Well, it's probably going to look a little different for almost everybody. So that's why I don't think it's a good idea to give a blanket prescription. This is exactly how your feet should be during a squat. Some people are going to have to take a wider stance to get the proper depth and to keep their torso more upright. Some people will go more narrow. There's all kinds of variables in there. Mark again. Wayne Galash said for his 2005 Olympia prep, he had never seen someone train harder than Ronnie. So he's talking about Ronnie's Olympia prep. Would literally collapse to the floor between sets, lying on the floor for rest. Yeah. So I was fortunate that I was out there in 2005 when he was just starting the off season for what would be his 8th and final win. Yeah, if you watch Ronnie's videos, DVDs, videos, I mean, there's tons of clips on YouTube now. He has his own channel called Ronnie Coleman, so there's a lot of clips on there too. That guy gave it everything in the gym. He trained 100% intensity. I don't think 101 or 110. I don't know if that's possible. Yeah, he definitely trained his ass off, that guy. He did not rely on his genetics. He didn't rely on gear. He had great genetics and he used gear, but that guy trained like a beast. You could see he left nothing on the gym floor. Pushed and pushed or pulled and pulled until that weight would not budge despite his most valiant attempts. So yeah, Wayne Galash made some really good videos. Yeah, I got one of my Australia shirts on today. This came from Musa, my son-in-law, who's from Sydney, Australia. And I was in Australia this year in Brisbane to see my son. Oh, continues. I quote, Ronnie trained like an absolute demon. You're right. He did not take the 3 months off. He'd probably be dead by now. Yeah, because like I said, as banged up as he is now, I think he'd be in even worse shape. I don't know if he'd be dead, but I don't know. He might be paralyzed or something. He might have incurred even more damage had he just kept training, because that's what someone like, that's what like Dorian did. He would go right from the Olympia straight into an off season, to try to utilize that unique situation where your body's like a sponge. And that's a dilemma a lot of people have after a contest. You've been beating the crap out of your body for months, starving, doing all this cardio, your joints, because you're lean and dehydrated, your joints are probably killing you. And then you're faced with this dilemma, like, what do I do now? Should I give my body a break? Either not train or just train really light for a while, take it easy on the food and everything. That would be the smart thing to do from a health and longevity point of view. But as bodybuilders, we also realize right after a show or after competing, your body is so depleted, it's like a sponge. It's just like ready to grow. The food, everything just gets soaked up and utilized. Everything you eat, you just feel like you're growing by the minute and you're getting stronger and stronger. But you have to be very careful, because you'll feel ready to squat 1,000 pounds, but your joints are still trying to recover from those months and months of cardio and doing all your weight training on low calories and low carbs and everything. So it's a tough dilemma there, because you either miss out on some potential gains, some really good gains that you can make in the what's the word? I have a hard time when I'm trying to talk and look. We call that what do you call it right after a show? We call it what do you call it, guys, when it's right after a show and you're trying to utilize all the food and training? It's a rebound. Thank you. I don't know why I couldn't think of the word rebound, but either you want to catch that, ride that rebound for gains, and in the long run, it's probably not a good idea for your joints and your overall health, especially if you're going to stay on gear, or you miss out on a little bit of those for sure, but give your body a break. Go off the gear. Don't eat all that food for a while. Just eat maybe three small meals a day and a couple shakes or something. Don't stuff yourself. That's probably the very smart thing to do, but I never did it that way. I was always like, time to grow. But yeah, the gear, you really should. If you've been blasting gear on a contest cycle, say 16 weeks of all that shit, Trend, Halo, and Test, and Equipoise, and Masteron, and Insulin, all this crap, man. Jeez, contest prep. Thyroid drugs, Clen, my goodness. It's probably a very good idea to take some time off, which they call a health phase. But I like that. It's good because, yeah, it is for your overall health to go off gear. Is it worth it training naturally, Noor Ega? 100%. Benefits train naturally. And I trained naturally for 13 years before I started using gear. And my son is natural. He's 24 years old. I think it's fairly obvious if you look at him, he's natural. you get to keep all that muscle. There's nothing, you never have to worry about, if I go off the drugs, I'm going to lose X amount of body weight, strength, fullness, mass. It's all yours to keep. You're not renting any of it. Whereas when you're on gear, you're always renting a part of that. And once you stop taking the gear, stop paying rent, your body evicts that muscle. See what I did there? You'll also have your health, man. Naturally, if you train naturally, you're never taking all these hormones. I've been very lucky, but so many people have not. I think if you've been paying any attention these last 3 years, we've lost a lot of bodybuilders. A lot of bodybuilders have died. A lot of them have left the sport due to health problems with their heart, their kidneys. They've been forced into retiring, basically. If you're natural, you never have to worry about that. You're not taking these drugs. You're going to harm your heart, your kidneys, losing hair, just another minor issue to deal with. There's no safe way to use steroids. There isn't. Anybody who's using steroids, they're taking some amount of risk. Even if it's a little bit, there's still some element of risk always associated with PED use, steroid use. I'm going to throw SARMs in there too, because the body treats SARMs the same way. So is it worth it to train naturally? 100%. You're not going to get as big and freaky looking, but you're not going to get any health problems from steroids or other drugs. And all that muscle, as long as you keep training, keep eating, that muscle's yours. You never have to worry about going off drugs and losing a substantial amount. Another thing is the psychological aspect of going off drugs and losing all that size and strength and not getting that attention and that validation from people anymore. A lot of guys get really, really depressed, really depressed. I mean, some have even committed suicide in that situation. It's awful. So yeah, training naturally, totally worth it. If you want to be this big freaky guy, yeah, you're going to have to use drugs, but it comes with a lot. It comes with a price. There's no free lunch, as we say. Everything has a price. So yeah, Damas. Would you consider Sam a dirty bulk? Would his skin heal if he switched to more home cooked? Well, I think his skin's healed because he started taking Accutane. Isn't that right? The last videos or pictures I've seen, when I say I don't follow him, it's not because I have anything against the guy. I don't really follow a ton of people. I see them on my feed and Instagram, but his skin has cleared up a lot. Yeah, I would consider what he's doing dirty bulking. And I think at age 21, you can get away with that. I wouldn't, if he keeps doing that over time, just eating, fried foods, a lot of sugary cereal, Five Guys burgers and fries, eating a lot of saturated fat, sugar. If you do that over time, your health is gonna reflect that. So, he's doing it now and he's very young. When you're that age, I heard Larry Wheels on a video the other day saying he did most of his drugs and stuff in his 20s, knowing that was the time when his body was going to be the most resilient and he'd be able to bounce back from it. And I really can't argue that point. A 20-year-old guy's body is going to bounce back from whatever damage is done to it in any way, be it drugs, alcohol, steroids, than a 50 or 40 or 50-year-old guy. Our immune systems don't get better as we age. They get worse. Our digestion doesn't get any better. It gets worse. Our recovery ability, everything gets worse as you get older. So I would consider that a dirty bulk. Yeah. Would he, as far as the skin, I'm not a dermatologist, and I think he went on Accutane, and I'm pretty sure his skin's looking pretty clear now. Desktop bodybuilding, that is over in Australia. That is Xavier Willis. What's up, Xavier? Xavier, I don't know if you're in Brisbane or Sydney, but I do usually have a vague idea what time it is. So, because my son was there for 6 months. So it should be, I don't know, the time changes. I think in Brisbane now it would be 6:39 a.m. on Thursday, November 30th, because it's 5:39 p.m. here on the East Coast of the United States. They were 13 hours ahead, Brisbane. Most of the time he was there. I think when the clocks changed, it either became 12 or 14. I don't know. But anyway, thanks for stopping by, Xavier. Really appreciate it. Ron, we always hear Dorian looked more impressive in person. Would you agree? How did he look in real life? 100% I agree with that. And I have no explanation. I don't know why. But, the only pictures I ever saw of Dorian that I thought were as impressive as what I used to see in person at the shows or whatever were the Black Sox pictures that Kevin Horton took. I think they were 6 weeks out from the 93 Olympia. And everyone was freaking out because in 92, he had dieted down, probably over-dieted down to 242 just for really extreme condition. He was flat compared to the way he looked later. So then it's not like he gained a ton of muscle between 92 and 93. You know, we used to discuss this, and he wrote about it in his MD column a couple times. He just didn't lose as much muscle. He did gain some new muscle, but it was the fact that he didn't lose muscle that time. But yeah, I remember seeing Dorian backstage. You know, in those days when I worked for ESPN, I could go backstage. You know, hopefully, if I ever work for the Olympia, I'll go backstage, or for strength or something. But I haven't been backstage at the Olympia since like 90. I think 95 was the last year I was backstage there when we were covering. Were we covering it that year? Anyway, yeah, Dorian. There was something about seeing him in person, just the muscle fibers, the way they moved. And, you know, we didn't really have HD video, 4K video. Obviously, back then it was a much lower resolution video, which is why a lot of these old YouTube videos look like shit. Because it's just that's the cameras. That's what we had available, the technology at the time. We didn't have super crisp, clean, you know, digital videography until later on. But yeah, Dorian was crazy in person. Crazy. I would say, to me, I didn't go to the 92 Olympia. That was in Finland. But I went to 91, his first Olympia in Orlando, 1991. I was pretty impressed with him there, but I was much more impressed with him in 93, 94. I think it was like Atlanta and Chicago. 93 was the year where he won his second title in Flex Wheeler, made his Olympia debut at second. But Dorian looked fucking crazy at that show. Jen says, hi, Xavier. Joseph Arablo, what's up, Joseph? You're the callous motivated to stay leaning around as I get older. We can have to go 195, not 215. Good, Joseph. I like the Joseph. I don't go by Ronald, but you go by Joseph. That's okay. Yeah, I mean, as we get older, I think Joseph, I think you're 49 or 50. I think you're around there, somewhere late 40s, early 50s, somewhere in that range. I'm sure you've told me, but my memory, you know, it's not that great. The older you get, especially, it becomes harder and harder to lose fat. I've heard, I think Dexter was the one guy, and again, exception, not the rule, an anomaly. So do not base your own plans or experiences on what you were about to hear. Dexter told me something like, it's easier to get in shape the older I get. He said that to me a few years ago. I'm like, easier? How could it be easier? Your metabolism, nobody's metabolism gets faster as they age. Nobody. Your metabolism is the fastest when you're born. And, you know, it's fast all those years you're growing because it needs to be. You're processing all these nutrients in your body's actually transforming and growing from this little baby into an adult. And then it starts slowing down because it doesn't need to be fast anymore. You don't need all those calories. You're not growing. You know, we're trying to grow muscles, but I'm saying physically, you're done. You're a fully formed adult human being. That's it. So, yeah, I really advise this. The older you get, especially, it's harder to lose the fat, and it's a lot unhealthier to have more body fat on you, to carry the body fat. You know, at 54, I'm a lot more cognizant and aware of my own health and longevity as far as things like diabetes, heart attacks, heart disease in general. You know, I have a little calcium, nothing major. I'm on a statin to control my cholesterol. I don't have high cholesterol. I don't have high blood pressure. My blood pressure today, I went to my orthopedic for my last, my final checkup on my surgery, my quad repair surgery. He was very pleased, but my blood pressure was 99/60. It's never been that low before. I'm not really sure what was up, but I wasn't dizzy or anything. The point I'm trying to make is being heavy, like overweight, it's not healthy at any age, but as you get older, you're at a much higher risk for heart disease, diabetes. You know, I don't know the exact amount, but if they found a direct correlation in adult males with the greater the difference is between your stomach sticking out and your chest, the higher your risk of a heart attack. So, you know, your chest is here. If you have a gut out to here, you're like a walking heart attack. You're at a huge risk for heart attack. So, yeah, I'm glad I could be of any catalyst. I'm glad I could be of help. Through the wire, Ronnie agree that heavy free weight movement squats and contribute to a bloated gut. No, I don't think so. Well, I'll put it this way: your core. So your core consists of all those muscles in your midsection. You know, your abdominals, your obliques, the serratus. There's a bunch more that I can't really rattle off the top of my head. But a strong core is going to be a bigger core. So if you see, here's a good example: CrossFit. I know most of you guys are like, CrossFit sucks. I hate CrossFit. Well, let me use an example. CrossFit women, jacked. They're jacked. But if you also notice, you don't see any of them with like a V taper. They don't have a V taper like a figure competitor or a bikini girl or even a bodybuilder. They don't have V tapers because they have big, square, thick trunks because they've done so many different movements like kettlebell work and all. They do a lot of functional training where they're picking up heavy things and swinging heavy things and their abs, ring dips, things where they really need their entire core to be strong for stability and to be able to contribute toward doing these things that they're doing. So these girls, they're grown-ass women. These women have big, thick trunks, big, thick midsections, and it's all muscle. They have abs. They have huge traps usually too from a lot of the stuff they do, huge legs. But you'll notice that and the strong men, the guys who do strongman, they always have really thick cores. They have to. If they didn't have a thick core, they wouldn't be able to do the things they do. They wouldn't have the support. Their bodies would like crack in half, basically. So I don't think squats give you a bloated gut at all. Deadlifts, no. I mean, there's a lot of examples of people that have done those movements and gotten very strong on them and do not have, they don't have big midsections, big guts. They have flat, tight midsections. I really think it's eating. I think it's things like insulin and growth hormone, especially overeating. Overeating will lead to a big gut. I don't think those movements, if you're doing them and you notice that things are getting bigger, then just stop. Don't do them anymore. Fine. There's so many exercises. There's no reason to be locked into I have to squat or I have to deadlift if there's a legitimate reason why you shouldn't be doing them, like an injury situation, or maybe they are contributing, making your waist thicker. But, I knew many, many bodybuilders over the years who did plenty of deadlifts, plenty of squats. They did not have big, big guts. They had nice V tapers, small midsections. So, yeah, I don't think that's the case. Tomas. Arnold said living in LA, he used the sun to tan and swam in the ocean post-workout to tighten his skin and recover his muscles. You think today's pros can benefit from getting some sun pre-contest? Well, the one thing that the sun does, obviously, every time you're getting a tan, it's technically damaging your skin. It's tanning your hide. When they say tan your hide, that's an old phrase of like how they make leather jackets, all leather pants, leather vests, whatever they make out of leather. So they basically like leave them out to dry in the heat, and they shrink up and get tighter. The hides of these animals, cows, basically, and turn to leather. So tanning will tighten up your skin. Absolutely. It will. It's also going to damage your skin. So you're going to be getting more wrinkles, more sunspots. So if that's a concern, you probably want to stay out of the sun, or at least use a very, very strong sunblock, like a number 50 when you're out in the sun, just because sun damage, you're not going to care about it now if you're young. But, I lived in California for 10 years and I saw a lot of people that had clearly, especially when I go to the beach, I would see the people in their 40s and the 50s that had probably been going to the beach their whole lives. And in California, you can go to the beach at least 6 months out of the year. It's hot enough. Places like South Florida, obviously, you can go to the beach all year. There are people there, and you can see their skin is, we call it leathery. It looks like leather. It's like cracked and shriveled up. It's like leather. So I would hesitate. I would maybe get a little bit of a tan. I would tan when I competed. I like to have a base tan, and full disclosure, I still sit out on my deck when it's hot, when it's warm out, which is for us about 4 or 5 months out of the year. I like to have a little color. Even now, I'm not that pale, but I'd be aware of that. I don't know about the ocean doing anything. I mean, that's the ocean. The salt water is good for your complexion if you have like acne and stuff. I know that, but I don't think it does anything to tighten your skin. Tanning does tighten your skin, but because it's damaging your skin, it's shrinking the skin. It's taking the collagen out of your skin, so it's not as elastic. It's going to shrink wrap to your body, which then you get older, you have all these cracks and wrinkles, and you're like, oh damn it. Mark Pereira says, when I bulked, I ate clean. The calories were high, but it was great because it was good, clean food. I was eating almost 5K calories a day. I got 235, still had abs. Yeah, see, that's the thing is, good point, Mark. I don't think you should ever completely lose sight of your abs to the point where you can't find one mirror at any time of day or any great lighting situation. We all have those places in our gym or in our house where the light hits just right. There's my abs. There's my pec striations. If you can't see any abs at all, it's just a big smooth wall of, fat. You got too fat. I think you should always be able to see at least a blurry, vague outline of your abs, your serratus. You should always have some muscle separation. When you flex your quad, you should be able to at least see some division among the quad heads. You shouldn't be just a big butterball. That's why we call it smooth. That's what smooth means. It means everything's just one smooth mass. There's no muscle separation. There's no delineation or definition. Yeah, so that's a good example. So Mark did it. That's clean bulking. And that's a good way to stay leaner. When you're dirty bulking, it's hard. It's hard to know when to stop. I mean, I remember so many times where I would bulk up during the winter, and only when I saw, I would start the bulking process probably like mid-October. And by the time I would see Christmas pictures with the family, or especially New Year's Eve pictures, I'd be like, oh my gosh, look at my face, look how round and fat it is. I got fat. Because it's easy to look in the mirror every day, because we see ourselves every day and not see that you're getting fatter and fatter by the day. And even the people around you might not even say anything or notice anything because they're seeing you every day. But, a lot of times I'm sure when you run into people that haven't seen you, they probably won't say anything. They don't want to be rude, but they're like, oh my God, you got fat. So I would see these pictures, and that's typically when I would go, geez, I better clean up my diet. No more. Because I used to eat dude, when I say dirty bulk, I used to eat these huge muffins at night. I would have 3 bowls of cereal in a row. I mean, like I would half a box of cereal at one sitting, like, Frankenberry, Apple Jacks, Cocoa Puffs, sugary crap with milk. It was skim milk, but it was still, I was taking in a lot of sugar, and it was a bad scene. B, are DEXA scans helpful for improvement season prep? So when should it be done? Yeah, especially if some of you have access to them where either it's free or maybe you don't have to pay much. Like if you work in a university or something, you might be in some setting, a hospital, somewhere where you can sneak in and use it. I don't know, but any type of body fat measurement device, and those are very, very reliable and high tech and expensive. So hydrostatic weighing, skin fold calipers are the old school way. And they're certainly better than nothing. I think in the hands of someone that knows how to use them, they're pretty accurate. But, DEXA scan and hydrostatic weighing, probably a little more reliable. Yeah, see, that's a good way to make sure that what you're gaining is mostly muscle. Nobody's going to gain 100% muscle. There's always going to be a little bit of fat. But you want to keep that ratio. I don't like to gain more than half. So if I'm putting on 10 pounds, I want to make sure no more than 5 of those pounds is fat. And by testing your body fat and doing the math, you'll say, okay, I had 200 pounds of fat-free mass and 30 pounds of fat last time. Today I have 205 pounds of fat-free mass and 240 pounds. No. Well, anyway, you see the point. Everything falls apart when I start trying to do math on these shows. But it's a good way for you to calculate what percentage of your gains that you're making is lean tissue and what percentage is fat. And if you see that you're gaining mostly fat, now you know, because knowing is the more you know, knowing is half the battle. Now you can sort of clean out your diet, say, okay, well, shit, I just put on 10 pounds of fat. I didn't want to do that. Or, 30, I gained 30 pounds, but now I can see that 20 pounds of that was fat. So at that point, you can clean up your diet, maybe start doing a little more cardio. And I would always do cardio, guys. Do not, unless you're some super hard gainer, really ectomorphic person that has a very tough time putting on weight, you should always keep up at least 3 cardio sessions a week, 20, 30 minutes. It doesn't have to be anything crazy, but I would always want to do cardio. I think you should do a little bit of cardio after every weight training session, just to help, flush out the waste products, just to help your heart and lungs stay in shape, burn a little some calories too. Yeah, but DEXA scans, absolutely. Any body fat testing method is helpful, but that's a really good one. If you could, the bod pod, if any of you guys have access to that stuff, especially if you don't have to pay for it, take advantage of it. It's going to be very helpful. Ron, Deep Purple, great band. Don't Fear the Reaper. Ron, did you feel like you were force feeding yourself? Did you always have a good appetite? I was force feeding quite a bit for sure, especially in my 20s. My 20s,
I didn't eat a lot of junk at all. I really didn't. I ate clean, but I ate too much because I thought I needed, like 2,000 more calories a day above baseline, above maintenance levels, which that's too much. 2,000 calories a day more than you need in a week. That's 14,000 calories. My goodness. So I was eating like, chicken, tuna out of the can, big potatoes like this big bowls of rice. I used to throw in some raisins, I think, to help get it down because it was plain white rice or plain brown rice sometimes. Yeah, I was force feeding. I've got a good appetite, but when I was younger, especially in those natty years, gaining was tough. Gaining's tough for most people. Most people don't gain muscle easily beyond those newbie stages. So yeah, I definitely force fed myself, and I went too far. Tomas, is growing into show not being popular today because guys are blasting and bridging their crews that time off to reset their receptors? Guys are better. Oh yeah, growing into the show is a rare thing now because in those pumping iron days, they typically did not use steroids for at least 6 months out of the year. At least. You used to see pictures of Arnold. The book Pumping Iron, if you ever get the book Pumping Iron, with the original pictures, which came out 2 years before the movie Pumping Iron, it's useful because you'll see some of these guys in their off season. They look way small. Like Arnold competed at like 240, let's say 235 to 245. I think that was his range. So he would go down to, in the off season, when he wasn't, when there was contests, was nowhere in sight, because I believe the Olympia was always in September. He only competed once a year all those years, the Olympia. There weren't all these pro shows back then. It was just the Olympia. There was one pro show a year. There were also only like 10 pro bodybuilders in the world at that time. So he would go down, he would go off all the gear, of course. So most of the year he was natural, nothing, not even a TRT dose. I could tell by looking at him. He would go down like 215. And this guy was like 6'1", 6'2". So very athletic looking, not skinny, but nowhere near the size when he would go back on for the shows. Yeah, so guys don't really take time off. Now it's like blast and cruise. They'll use the off season to bulk up with a bunch of drugs, and they'll go right into a prep, and that's more drugs. Then they might rest for a couple weeks, and then it's another off season. Drugs. So they never come off. Growing into a show is a healthier way to do it because it meant that you took a bunch of time off drugs. So I always say this. Steroids become more and more dangerous the higher the doses you use and the longer you use steroids, so the longer you're on these doses. So if you can minimize either one of those, either by taking the doses down or taking time off the drugs, the overall impact on your health is going to be less severe. I think that's just common sense, right? Let's watch our interview today. Oh, wow. That was a while ago. Jeez. When was that? Yeah, we worked out a little bit together, Mark. Yeah. Yeah, I don't like training with people anymore because I'm so banged up now. It's sad. I enjoy training, but I've had to adapt my training so much to my injuries and different situations. Like I did push day today. I can't do heavy dumbbell presses for chest or shoulders anymore, and I don't like doing light dumbbell press. What's the point? If I can do like 20 reps, 25 reps, what's the point? So it's a lot of machine work, and even machines like shoulder press machines. This grip hurts me on most shoulder presses, pretty much all shoulder presses. The only grip that doesn't hurt me now, because even that hurt just right now doing that, because the arthritis is so bad there, I need both shoulders replaced. I have to use a neutral grip. That's the only grip that doesn't hurt when I press now. Anyway, that's just one small example. Leg day, I can't squat. Even before I tore my quad, I could rarely squat. It just, the lower back always felt like it was about to pop. I don't like to, so the bottom line is I don't like to train with people because I'd be holding them back from doing a lot of movements that they could and should be doing. Like I remember training back with my son one day, and I said, geez, you should be doing barbell rows. I can't do them because my lower back would snap on me, but you should be doing them. And that's when I realized that's training with other people. It's not a good idea for me anymore. It's doing them a disservice, if anything. I can still train people very well where I'm not working out. I'm putting them through the workout. But if they have to do what I'm doing, I'm a 50-year-old man who needs both shoulders replaced. He's got lower back problems and knee issues and a torn quad. So yeah. Which one would give you the best cap shoulders? So I'd say a variety of different things for shoulder. Lateral raises. All men are lateral raises. Lateral raise machine, cable laterals, dumbbell laterals. I think that's all the laterals, right? But yeah, I'd say that the presses were important for overall mass for sure, but to get that really round cap look, I attribute most of that to the lateral raises I did for many, many years. These days I do either dumbbells or a seated machine, but anything where you can really isolate that side delt and really get it going, get a good pump, great contraction, feel it stretching on the way down, contract. You want to really isolate that middle head, the medial head of the deltoid. And for many, many years, I would do 2 different lateral raises in a workout. So I would do, I was on a lot of gear and I was young. I was still younger, so I could recover better. But I would start out with seated dumbbell press. That was like my bread and butter compound movement, this grip, seated dumbbell presses. Then I would do usually two different types of laterals. I would do either like dumbbells and machine. I think I would always do dumbbells. I used to like the one arm dumbbell variation where I lean away from it to get a better stretch. Seated dumbbell raises, seated dumbbell laterals, and cables. I used to do cables in the front. Sometimes I do them in the back. But cable, any kind of laterals, that's the best thing for that. Post-show rebound. Thank you, Xavier. I couldn't think of the word rebound was escaping me, which is odd because the guy who I go to for my massage, deep tissue work and cupping and all that, he does Graston. This guy Packy, his business is called Rebound Recovery. So I should always have that in my head. But thank you. Rebound. Yeah. Plus, Top Bros take out for today's show. Or Viagra directions the last few days. They take anabolics right up until the day. Typically, they're taking just pills. Usually, you want to stop. Most guys will stop all injections at least a week out and then switch to all orals, which is murder on the liver for sure. But you don't want to take the chance of shooting your shoulder and getting any inflammation or an infection would be worse. Where now you're on stage with a big shiny lump or something, and everyone's laughing at you. Or even worse, you can get, infections and abscesses you might need medical attention. You might not make it to the show. There's a slim chance, but you don't want to take any chances at that point. So, no, Viagra. I'm laughing, but yeah, people do use Viagra and Cialis on show day because they're vasodilators. They'll help you get a better pump. They're going to help. I take Cialis not primarily for sex, but just to get better pumps, and it does. It works. It works great. I mean, that's what it does. It opens up your blood vessels, increases blood flow, so you're going to get a better pump for sure. Diuretics, yeah, of course, people use diuretics, but so they'll be taking like oral, Winstrol, Anavar. I think I've Masteron. I've seen in a pill. I think one time, but typically they'll be taking orals. No more shots at that point. So we have an update on the current time in, I don't know what part of Australia. It's a big country, Australia. Big country. You got Melbourne over here. You got Sydney. You got Brisbane. Yeah, look at my geography knowledge. 9:39 a.m. So 9:39 a.m. Oh, they do the half. That's right. I think they do the half hour or 1 hour, 90-minute time change. So it's not even. It's 6:03 p.m. here now, but it's 9:39 a.m. over there. That is wacky, Xavier. Oh, well, this was posted at 5:39. My bad. My bad. Now I'm looking at because I'm thinking he just posted that. So he posted that at 5:39, 9:39 a.m. So wow, they are 14 hours ahead. Wow. Well, at least I give Xavier a lot of props because he does great contest coverage, live coverage, watch parties, no matter what time it is for him. So I've been doing these things where I see I've been watching and I can see what time it is here. I'm like, wow, it's like 2 a.m. for him. It's 4 a.m. It's 5 a.m. He's up like all night. So big props to Xavier. He really built that channel up from the ground up with blood, sweat, and tears. Wish you much success, Xavier. Western Australia. So that's the Melbourne side. Yeah, you see me doing it. So I have this vague idea of geography in Australia. I was over in Brisbane. That was like northeast part of the country. Sydney was down here. Melbourne was over here. I assume there's some other cities somewhere. I don't know. The whole middle of the country is largely uninhabited. I know that. Rebound. Thanks, Mark. Yeah, just like most of Canada is uninhabited. The border, along the U.S. border is like where most people live in Canada. And then you have this vast wilderness above that where there's like almost no human beings. Just a lot of elk, I guess. Mark, Ron Dexter started cardio with Farah to get in shape. Sometimes did get slower. Where did I get easier? Maybe he was referring to lower PEDs. No, I mean, that was just exact. I remember this, those are exact words. And he was like, it's funny, I get in shape easier as I get older. I'm like, huh. Didn't mention yeah. He started doing cardio with George. He started doing abs. He didn't train abs in his amateur career or in the first stages of his pro career. He didn't do any ab training, didn't do any cardio. So talk about a genetic freak. I mean, he competed till he was 51 at the Olympia. He was still winning shows. Double M. Super high protein diets, 5 and 6 worth it. I remember pros in the 90s, early 2000s. I swear I see guys eating lower protein now. I've talked to a lot of guys who have lowered their protein significantly. When I say lowered, so I like round numbers. So if you're a 200-pound bodybuilder, if you're taking in 200 grams of protein a day, that's like the low end for most bodybuilders. Most bodybuilders like to go 1.5. That's just a number we came up with. I don't think there's much scientific basis for it, but people anecdotally, bro science did prove that a higher protein intake did lead to more muscle mass. So a 200-pound bodybuilder would eat 300 grams of protein a day, split up into however many servings. If you're going to eat 6 times a day, that's, 50? Yeah, that's 50 grams per serving. So whether that's in the form of a shake or a meal, you would strive for 50 grams 6 times throughout the day and get to 300. I don't think 600 grams. I don't know anybody that really needs 600, unless you're like, even if you're a 300-pound bodybuilder, that would still be 2 grams of protein. The only times I think you would need or want or need to go that high in your protein is maybe toward the end of a contest prep when your carbs are very, very low and you want to keep your muscle mass and you don't want your calories to get extremely low. So you would up your protein in a scenario like that. But as a golden rule, I think 1.5 grams of protein is probably ideal for most bodybuilders. So that would, again, 200 pounds, that's 300 grams of protein a day. If you're 300 pounds, that would be, 450? Is that right? Yeah, 450. Look at my math. Look at me. I didn't even need a calculator for that. Well, we've been doing this for a little over an hour, guys. So I'm going to wrap things up here from the home base here in Massachusetts. Ron Harris, no longer online editor, but that's okay. I'm still Ron Harris. Interesting note about this channel. It's not a new channel. I started this channel in 2006. So 17 years ago, because when I look at my oldest videos on the channel, you can do that. It'll say 17 years ago. I'm like, wow, I've had a YouTube channel for 17 years. That's not far from 20 years. But I didn't do anything with it since the last 10 years. I haven't done anything. Barely uploaded any videos, just here and there. And once I started with the full-time MD position of online editor, I did not do anything with my own channel after that because I didn't really have time, and I felt like if I'm creating video content, I should be doing it for MD because that's my job, is to help create content. I created a lot of content over the years I was there, and but now it's my own channel. We're back. Appreciate you guys joining me. Appreciate you guys who came over and supported me that they used to watch my MD videos. Again, if you're not subscribed, please subscribe, like the video, share the video, turn on notifications so when we're going live. This channel will be growing and expanding and doing a lot more than this in the very near future. I'm going to be able to monetize the channel. That's when I can start getting sponsors and things like that, and the channel will grow. But I do need your support for that. Keep watching the videos, please. And that's it. I thank you guys so much. Have an awesome day, night, wherever you are. And that's it. We'll see you next time.